Welcome to the on-record portion of the Rockbridge Report. I'm Katie Stewart, and I'm joined today with David Grist, the CEO and President of Cornerstone Bank here in Lexington, Virginia. Thanks for joining us today, Mr. Grist.
Thank you for having me, Katie. Glad to be here.
Of course. Well, let's get started by talking about the heart of downtown Lexington. On the corner of Main Street and Nelson, there are 3 banks and a church. Does Lexington, how does this reflect the market for banks in Lexington?
It's been interesting. The market here has been changing as it has been all over the country. The industry as a whole has been changing for the last 20 years. We've been seeing more and more mergers and acquisitions until about 2008 when the financial crisis happened and things changed quite a bit. Our market has changed a lot recently with the Bank of America closing in Buena Vista, with the Essex Bank closing out on Route 11. We've had 2 banks close since we've opened in 2009. So it's changing a lot. The name on the corner, Wachovia, changed to Wells Fargo. So just in the short period that Cornerstone has been in the market, we've seen quite a few changes in the financial industry here.
You mentioned Bank of America closing. Is Rockbridge County a place for a large bank? Why were they not able to succeed here?
You know, Bank of America is a mega bank, $1 trillion institution, and they've had some issues with the financial crisis, and they decided to make some cuts, some pretty serious cuts to shore up their ship, so to speak. And Buena Vista was a place that was kind of isolated for them. I don't know that a large bank couldn't make it here, but one office from a large bank is very difficult. And they had one office, and the next closest office they had was about 50 miles away. So it was very difficult for them to support the office they had in Buena Vista. I think that's the reason that they chose to cut that. But it was beneficial for Cornerstone because we hired their manager to come and help us, and I look forward to helping some of the Bank of America customers in that way.
Cornerstone, you mentioned it started fairly recently. Where were your customers coming from?
You know, our market has grown a little bit over time. Rockbridge County is a great market for banking, and when we were looking at chartering Cornerstone, we did some market studies with some help from a W&L professor at the time and others to help us do our studies. And we found that there's $600 million in deposits in Rockbridge County. The adjoining counties, Botetourt County, for example, has about $350 million. Highlands, Allegheny County on the other side, about $280 million, just as a comparison to how our market is. So there are quite a few deposits in the market, and it's a great place to do banking.
Why is Rockbridge County so different than surrounding counties?
You know, I think part of the reason is we are a retirement community, and a lot of those folks are seasoned and have brought their investments with them and their dollars with them to the market and deposit them in the banks here. I think that is a primary reason, because we don't have the population that the Botetourt County side has, for sure. They're 50-some million dollars, 50-some thousand folks living in Botetourt County. So we're very fortunate to have the makeup of the folks we have here to bring the deposits to the market.
What do you see as the role of a community bank in Lexington or Rockbridge County?
Community banks in the country are very vital to, and Ben Bernanke was saying that even yesterday, that they're vital to the economic growth of the country and the grassroots of knowing what's happening in the local economies and keeping in touch with folks on a daily basis. Larger banks seem to lose that in their headquarters in other markets, and they don't seem to have the focus of a small area. Our headquarters being in Rockbridge County has been very beneficial. We've made almost $70 million in loans since we opened 3 years ago. 2 local folks here, and that's been a real good economic stimulus for our community. And we've been very fortunate to provide the Cornerstone Care service that we so desperately focus on to those customers and our community as well.
How has your market share changed since you've come into the community compared to other banks that have been here?
We're kind of excited about that. We started at 0, of course, in 2009, and we're about 12% of the market today. I mean, my goal as a CEO is to try to get to about 25% of the market and serve those customers very well. And so we're headed in that direction pretty quickly, actually.
Can you talk a little bit about your background before Cornerstone opened? What were you doing?
I can. I started actually kind of interesting stories. I started my career in what is now Wells Fargo, which is catty corner to where I hope to end my career in the next 10 or 12 years in Cornerstone there. So I started there in college when I was a freshman at JMU and was a part-time teller. Started there, and they transferred me to Roanoke after I graduated from college. So I worked at First National Exchange Bank in Roanoke for 3 years before coming back to Rockbridge County. And I spent the last 34 years banking in Rockbridge County and at the various institutions that I was with, including the original Bank of Rockbridge, which got purchased by One Valley and then by BB&T. So I've been with the large regional banks as well and understand how they operate, and it's been very helpful for me to go back to community banking and compete with those guys.
What are some of the challenges of starting a community bank?
The challenges starting our bank in 2009 was we were in the middle of a recession and trying to raise $10 million in capital, and that was a real challenge for us. We got it done in about 18 months and got our charter approved. But then you think once you get open that things are going to be smooth, but we were still in the middle of a financial crisis. Many of the institutions were struggling with bad loans, and those customers were being asked to find another home. So we were really looking at a lot of customers that were distressed and needed help. And you know, one of the things that I pride myself on is I try to hire people that truly care about other folks. And those people cared about these individuals that were struggling and having issues with their home prices dropping and all the things that were happening back then. And so it was a challenge for us to get through some of that. I think we're on the way out. It seems to be a much more positive environment today than it was when we first opened.
Mm-hmm. Looking 5 years ahead, what do you see the banking community in Lexington looking like? Growing, shrinking like the Bank of America closing? How do you see
I probably, forward? You know, I do predict a couple of changes, a couple of institutions that may go together or change. That has changed a lot. That's slowed down a lot, the merger and acquisition world. But I do see one maybe of those happening before in the next 5 years. As far as Cornerstone goes, we're opening the branch on Route 11 North at the Tractor Supply at April the 9th, so we're real excited about our first branch. And so I think we'll see a few more branches in the community, maybe a credit union. I see that in the news a lot. They've been looking at our market as well, so we may see a credit union for the first time. Well, I think there's a small one in Buena Vista now, but a real dominant credit union coming to the market in the next 5 years, possibly.
What would that mean for the Lexington community? You
know, the credit unions are sort of a sore spot for banking and the banking industry as a whole because they don't pay taxes, first of all, and they don't have to have the capital requirements that banks have, and yet they're asking for many of the rights that banks have today. Like to be a member of a credit union, you have to live in an area. Originally, they were formed to to be a part of a company, but now it's just a demographic thing and geographic membership to the credit union. So those things, they would be a real competitor of ours because they don't have to charge the rates we charge or pay the rates we have to pay on deposits because of that tax advantage they have on the bankers. So it would be a true competitor for us.
Speaking of competition, who else do you see your competition being? Larger banks? How do you see your role in the community?
You know, we have a definite niche. We have actually a legal lending limit of about $1.5 million, so there is a place for the larger institutions on loans larger than that. So we do focus on the small business America. So there is, again, a niche for the larger banks. There are some strong banks here. I think BB&T is a great bank, and others that we compete with on a daily basis that hopefully we'll be around to serve the parts of the community that we can't.
What other options do people have besides just putting money in a bank? What are people investing or investing in property? Have you noticed trends in that realm?
Very much so. We're fortunate to have a financial services department. Frank Friedman is our broker, and he's been around a long time and knows how to help with those types of investments with stocks and bonds, mutual funds. There is a great deal of money in that's not counted in that $600 million I mentioned earlier in our market. And so that's one place that folks are looking. But the real estate prices being so low has been a little bit of a drain on the financial services industry. They have taken money out and purchased what seem to be deals in the real estate market today. Mm-hmm. So they're both competitors very much for the deposits that we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Real estate in Lexington or people going elsewhere?
Some in Lexington, a lot in Florida. We've lost some deposits to folks buying properties in Florida and vacation type homes that they didn't think they could afford before. So, but a lot in Rockbridge County as well. Mm-hmm. Some foreclosed properties that seem to be great deals for folks are being purchased as investments.
So it sounds like it's picking back up, real estate?
I think it is. I really do think it is. I see a positive thing on in our loan pipeline, a lot of mortgage applications that are for purchases now, not just refinances.
Interesting. Would you say that the trend is that community banks are growing nationwide, or is this something just localized? What?
That's a great question. In 2009, there were 21 banks opened in the country. We were one of those 21, and I don't think we're seeing the growth that we saw in the past. I think it's very difficult to get a charter today with the issues that some of the larger banks are having. I think the FDIC and the OCC are preferring to give a group of folks that want to have a bank, one of the failing banks. You can have this charter if you want to invest your money in that bank, as opposed to giving them the new bank opportunity. So it's more difficult to open a bank today than it has been in the past. So I do see sort of still a declining number of banks in the country, but just not as fast as it has been in the past.
Okay. And that's along the same lines that you said that mergers and acquisitions are slowing down.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
I see. All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Grist.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate being here.
All right. And we'll look to see you next week. Thanks.